Hi, welcome to another tutorial from She's Eclectic UK. This week I'm going to be doing what I think is a new technique using acetate, or transparency as it's sometimes known, to create barriers within resin moulds. I've seen Steve McDonald crafting do something fairly similar recently, where he used chopped up toilet rolls which he then painted the colour of the resin to use as a dam to keep the resin within one part of the mould itself. But I'm going to be using clear because I think you could probably get quite a lot of good effects with that. This is the mould I've selected. I'm going for something with a flat bottom and not too big because I'm going to be using UV resin just to test it. Just measuring the depth of the mould itself, so then I can take the transparency sheet and cut it down with my guillotine. A pair of scissors will obviously work exactly the same, although probably be a little bit more finicky to try and get a even length all the way along. So I don't know why I didn't move the mould back onto the surface, but I didn't. So here I am, just placing the acetate within the mould itself, sort of bending it back and forwards because I've really no idea what look I'm going for. Just testing what the acetate behaves like when it's in the mould. So just looped it backwards and forwards to create pockets that I can put different colours of resin in. What I'm then going to do is take UV resin and a silicone tool with a fine point preferably. I'm going to put a tiny bit of UV onto the end of the tool, and then I'm going to take the tool and I'm going to dab it against the base of the acetate and the mould. This effectively creates like a spot weld where I'm putting the UV resin. After that, I'm just going to get the UV lamp and flash cure for 10 seconds. As you can see, I'm having to put my fingers in the mould, into the lamp here, just to press the acetate down against the base of the mould. So I'm going to continue doing that. There's some speeded up footage of me just going around making sure that at all the major junctions and curves I have UV resin sticking them down to the base of the mould. And then after that I'm going to use a more sweeping motion with a little bit more UV resin to make sure that there are no gaps underneath the edge of the acetate and the bottom of the mould, to ensure the resin stays where it's supposed to. Famous last words. And then I'm adding some glitter because I really didn't know what colour I was going for or what effect. But I'm also going to add some decorum pigments for epoxy resin and for UV resin, which I'll link in the description if they're still available. I got these a very long time ago. I didn't actually end up using that colour because I wanted to go for all green, so I ended up mixing the blue with the yellow instead. So I'm just squeezing a bit of epoxy resin in to each pocket and adding a couple of drops of the pigment, then mixing it in. I think in the future I'll just use normal resin. As this was just a test, I just wanted to quickly see if it would work rather than waiting a day or so to see whether it would work. That's just my impatience. I think it's just too expensive to use UV resin to do the whole thing if you were going to do a larger project than this. So I'm just sweeping around the edges and making sure I'm poking the glitter and the pigment and the epoxy resin right up into the corners of the pockets I've made. So enjoy a few moments of me continuing to fill the rest of the sections up with resin and glitter. I really wished I'd used something other than the blue glitter, but I couldn't find any. Just curing that now, and then moving on to the top coat of resin. I think it needs a coat of resin over the top just for strength. I didn't know whether the lines of acetate would give me sort of inherent weaknesses within the piece itself. And cure that again. I've just found a really good green glitter that I could have used, of course. After it's been cured, you can see that it's not exactly flat. And using the international sign of hotness, I'm telling you that this is very hot after it's just come out of the lamp. So as it's bowed and it's not flattening out in the mould, I decided to try and just take it out of the mould and press it against the desk to see if that would work. Reader, it didn't. As you can see, it's quite flexible still from the UV lamp because of all the heat that's still retained in it. So this is the finished piece. I'm not entirely happy with it. I think it's actually a technique that could be quite good. There's a few air bubbles here and there, and I think the clear lines are quite apparent when you hold the piece up to the light. I think I should have possibly used more opaque colours, but I didn't really have a plan of what I was doing at the time. It's fairly strong, surprisingly, considering there's only a very thin resin over the top. I think it looks quite nice when it's down. It looks better when you can't see through the piece. So do we like? Yes? No? Anyway, let me know your thoughts down below. I'll be very interested to hear whether someone's done it before, and if so, I'll probably just pin their comment first because I don't want to take credit for someone else's work. So here are some close-ups of the finished piece. I'm hoping to do more experiments with this particular technique. Maybe do some harder angles, zigzags, spirals, something like that. And if you want to catch those, then like and subscribe. Thanks for watching.